Barack.
No,
Get somebody to pick you up and we'll take you, bring you back.
Washington.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh,
Now,
George Powell.
if you think that he wasn't a magician for 50 or 75 years, blacks did not have a chance of ever being the mayor of Chicago. But you know what Mr. Washington did? He went out, told all the thugs, all the preachers, and said, look, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to work together to show them white folks they can't completely control us. And that's why he was able to be elected, and they did everything they could to keep him. But he did, and they killed him now.
That's right. Yes,
But
he
he said he didn't mind dying for what he showed them as possible, and say you're going to have to change things. And I really think they thought about him when they selected Barack to be the president.
Wow.
I swear I really do.
They did.
Yeah, sure.
They had to have.
And then, you know
Good
what?
point.
But after Barack got in the presidency, that's why we got Trump now.
Oh, no, okay.
Because they're getting even with us for letting
Oh, good.
Barack be president.
Right.
Trump the man.
Well, Mr. Day, before we get started, I have my son on speaker. This is D. Carl McKellar, and
Dr. McKellar's favorite and only daughter.
2 in 1.
I have 2 very spoiled children.
My name is Dana McKellar in Taka, and I'm in the area from Pennsylvania.
All right.
And introduce son.
Oh yes, my name is Michael Shaw, and I've been working with my dad for quite a long time, and I'm here to support your mom in whatever she want to do.
Thank you. And I'm your mother. And don't you forget. Okay, Mr. Shaw, we turn everything over to you.
Okay, what we were talking about is politics in black community from slavery up until now. And the one person in Chicago was able to show the politicians there that we have talent if we stick together. And he proved it by giving his life to get to be president, getting to be the mayor of Chicago. And I bought a book to give to your mother and to let her know that here's some things that you probably need to know with what we got to do, because sometimes we have the same problem that Mr. Washington had got in Chicago. So that's basically where we are now. And I was just talking about this past week, after last week that I was in Tyler, I said to myself, I've got to find some things that's going to be beneficial to her in her campaign, knowing where she was. And I went to the library of a bookstore here called Half Price Books, and I find a lot of good information there on our lives and what we've done. And I looked for some people that had it in print of what we could do and what happened to us in slavery and how we got out. And I bought a book to show them about the blacks with what we could do that nobody knows unless we have got it from somebody else. And the next thing I did, I bought a book of female people that had a lot to do with the state of Texas. And I looked at this book and I said, you know, that is a pitiful shame that we did not put us in that. We're talking about women. And you know, a lot of times they have the power that we think we have as men, but we don't. And I bought it so I can show her and the rest of the ladies that we're going to be dealing with that we got all these ladies, all from Texas, but we don't have one single black female.
Yes, yes.
And the sad part about that is some of the things that we could do that we have done that they just ignored. And it represented something for the growth and development of Texas. And I brought this book to show our ladies that are veterans that we're going to write us a book and we're going to leave them out
There you go.
and put the right people in there from Texas. And this lady will be one of the people in that book because she is going to make some very, very good things for the state of Texas. Because I believe with the people that we have in Dallas and in Fort Worth, in North Central Texas, we have a lady that was hired after the state of Texas decided if we have a certain number of veterans in our county, the state said you must have an office for those veterans. So consequently, they passed a law to do that. And when they passed that law, they had to go out and find people to put in these offices. So they could tell them that this office is strictly for veterans for the state of Texas. And incidentally, the state of Texas is one of the greatest states in the union to help veterans. We have things that laws just like this one. So consequently, there was a lady that they hired that was a former veteran. And she had been in the military for almost 20 years, and she was with the Air Force. And she was a very, very brilliant lady. And her name was Tracy Little. And when she got in that office, I happened to have met her after she was here for about a year. And we got to be real good friends because I said, look, I have some ideas that I think would help you, but I don't want to tell you how to run your office, but I can tell you some things that will work. So we worked together, but she was a lot smarter than I was in dealing with the veterans. And so she said, well, Dave, I'll tell you what, now when they organized these offices, they didn't have anybody in the community for the people that's supposed to be servants, which are the veterans, what we need. So how could they go out, have an office to help the veterans, and the veterans don't know anything about the office and what they do? And so what she did, she went out and organized veterans in the community to come to her office and tell her what they needed. And she said, Dave, when that happened, it made me know maybe we need to let all these people in North Central Texas in our counties know that they have veterans offices in that county. And she organized 19 counties, all operated the way she told them to in Dallas, Texas. And now we have almost 30 counties up here to say, well, we want to get in. That's one of the reasons why I really appreciate you inviting me to Tyler, because it gives us an opportunity to find an area of Texas that could do the same thing that we did. And since you're running for office and you will go to Washington, it'll be a wonderful thing for the people in Dallas. And we have to. So consequently that happened. And that's what this book is. Now, what I had to do is find something to tell America and Texas what we have done since we wasn't in this book. We got one that everything is in this book is black females. And when you look at it, you're going to see some people in here that you know, that you have heard of, and that you know about. And even now, we have people in business, making movies, all from Texas. And people now know that we have some talented people in Texas. Now, how on earth could they make a book like this with the people that have females that have helped Dallas to grow and leave us out?
Yes.
And that's what this book is going to tell you. When you go on your trips, you say, now this is one book But they didn't think we did that much. But now this is the one to tell you, not only in Texas, but all over the country.
Right.
You know, we got people, and you know them, some of them that happened in the 1800s and all that.
Right.
So consequently, it tells our people we're just as good as they are.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciate in meeting Ben Carson when I did. Because we went to schools all over Dallas, in our neighborhood. We didn't go to white schools, we went to black schools. And do you know when he told some of those kids that he was a thug from Detroit, they just could not believe it. But some of those kids said, you know what, I think I can do that.
All
All
right.
right.
And right now, this is something that we going here in Texas, we're going to do for him because he knows an awful lot of people here in Dallas and in Fort Worth. And he got orders from his president, Trump, and our president, Mr. Obama, saying that, look, if you do what people tell you in Texas, you're going to make a real good show because everybody else is against you.
Right. Right.
So that's what these books are. And when I go to some of those meetings with you, I want to see you tell them that. And you would be surprised what's going to happen. Because that's the one thing about Ben Carson that I learned. He said, Dad, we have got to find a way to let our people know, because we were poor, that our mind was given to us from upstairs. And when my mother told me that you are just as good as white people,
That's right.
you got a good mind. And I went out being a thug, being in the community that people hated, and I turned out to be one of the best doctors in the world.
That's
Well,
right.
What does that
Right to the
tell
time.
you about us?
That's right. We're brilliant.
Yeah.
He and I know what he had in mind, but we're going to prove some of this with some of the people that's going to be in your area and these areas up here. And Texas is going to show America, you know, Dr. Carson, he was serious. And that's what we're going to do now.
Right.
But now I don't want to do all the talking stuff. There's somebody-
Talk to us a little bit about
I see we have
About the complex.
yeah.
Yes.
I see we have a gentleman that's awfully powerful in
Yes.
Dallas for the last 30 years. And he's got to take over the microphone for a few minutes.
Since he's the microphone guy.
That's right. Mr. Robert Ashley.
Mr. Robert
Yeah,
Ashley.
that's it.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. Dr. Mckellar, good to see you, man.
Yes, it's always a
How are
pleasure.
you?
This is my daughter,
Hello.
Mr. Ashley.
Oh, how are you, man?
Very good, thank you.
Good to see you. It's her.
Robinson. William Robinson.
All right. You know what? CW?
And my son's listening in.
Beautiful, beautiful. How you doing, sir? How's it going there?
Son,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
you know Mr. Robert Ashley? Yes.
well, it's just an honor to see what's going on here, because we were talking today with somebody who sits in the eviction courts, and they were talking about what's going on right here in Dallas, Fort Worth, about how that if you have an eviction notice on your record, you may not be able to rent or have any kind of housing.
That's correct.
And the young man challenged me to come to the court to see how many people are becoming homeless each and every day. And he said it's impacting the lower income communities, blacks and Latinos,
Yes.
and that there's such a need for programs. There's so much human capital here, but it seems like we're not reinvesting in them. We used to have job training programs. I was talking to a fellow the other day who was saying, well, we need to go back to what we used to do in the 50s and 60s in high school, when you had home economics,
Yes.
when you had wood shop, you had
Auto mechanics.
auto mechanics, drafting.
Yes.
He says that we have deindustrialized America,
Yes.
and now we have a human capital, but yet we're importing people into the country every month with some kind of visa.
Yeah, they used to have a distributed education program.
Yes.
So it seems like whatever you can do in terms of the veterans or just people, period, there's
That's
such
right.
a need. But we have somewhat seemingly political greed out there. I mean, you got the Democrats investigating Trump. You got the Republicans trying to get Hillary and Bill investigated. You got your country looking at a $20 trillion deficit. But here in Dallas, Fort Worth, the Wall Street Journal said just last week that Dallas-Fort Worth is the best place for Amazon to relocate that big,
That's right.
big company that they're trying to relocate that would bring 50,000 jobs and all these residual jobs. So here in Dallas-Fort Worth, it seems like there's so much potential, but do we have the human leadership to make it gel? Do we have people in place that can keep the city of Dallas from sending millions of dollars back to Washington?
There you go.
Because they don't have anybody here they can trust with that kind of money.
Exactly.
So it seems like I sense we're at a crossroads in terms of our moral integrity, who we are as a people, and whether or not this country is actually going to survive. So, as a journalist covering Dallas for the last 30 years, if this ain't the promised land, I'm wondering where is it?
Where is the promised land? Wow, powerful.
So potential.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Dana McKellar Intaka, and I am from the Philadelphia area. After I graduated from Southwestern Christian College, I relocated to Philadelphia to attend Temple University and then Drexel University and University of Pennsylvania. The one thing I didn't know at the age of 19 was how many vacant properties were available in the northern cities. And my now husband, who was then my fiance, and I have purchased about 69 properties.
Really?
We rehabbed all those properties in our 20s, 30s, and 40s, and were able to help our parents to put us through school and make a very nice life for ourselves. It did take a lot of hard work, rolling up our sleeves and just being courageous and advantageous, so I definitely can appreciate urban development. It's been near and dear to my heart.
Well,
Great.
that's
Yeah,
good to know. Well, I think that we are looking into a new phase of economics in America now, and I think there are some states that recognize that. And Dallas has been a city in the state of Texas that for a long, long time have had an awful lot of our people that we didn't know about. Because I can remember in the 40s and the 50s, they had black presidents of huge organizations because they were smarter and they could get them to work cheaper. And some of that really made some of our people know that now is the time with the change. And Dallas is an international city. It's been working to do that for a long, long time. It's an international city simply because they understand that we have some very brilliant people, and all of them are not white.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
You'd be surprised of the success.
More comfortable for them not to have to work so hard, but they got the credit.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think now is our time, and we've been extremely blessed with the power that came without really letting us know, and just the few of us in this office, in this house today, got power all the way to Washington.
Yes.
And it came from a person that I've known for 10 years. And he said, Dave, get together and let our people know to work together.
Right.
And that's Dr.
Back to Ben Carson.
Dr. Ben Carson is taking orders from Mr. Don Bagels.
Right.
And he is the gentleman that's going to help us in the state of Texas. And that's why this is a wonderful time for you. It really is. And I think really with us working together that you can win this race.
I believe that.
Yeah, I definitely, I believe that. Because if you have
That's your go. There you go.
if you have a daughter that's smart enough to go to Philadelphia,
As a youngster.
we haven't done that here yet.
Exactly. Well, can you address how, considering all of that Mr. Ashley just gave to us about the homelessness, and we know how much of that is involved here, because I actually see it on a daily basis right there in Tyler, Texas, where, as many of you know, Tyler is one of the wealthiest cities in East Texas. Lots and lots of money there, but lots of homelessness is there. So how do we duplicate what you're about to do? You talk a little bit about the fact that you're going to tear this building down where we are right now today,
Yeah.
and what you're going to replace that with.
Well, the first thing we have to organize ourselves to work together. And we have an awful lot of leaders, and a lot of those leaders, and I think we have, Mr. Ashley can tell us, a lot of our ministers are not thinking about what we should do at church rather than talking about the Lord. We should.
We should.
But we also need to have places for our children to stay and schools for our kids to go to.
Yes.
And we're going to have to do that together because the other people are just not going to do it for
No.
us. And what has happened here with some of the people, like I was telling you, the lady that organized North Central Texas, Miss Tracy Little, she is just somebody special. And I think what you're doing with her help, with my help, Mr. Ashley's help, and a lot of other people here in town, like Mr. Babel, we all know what we need to do.
Right.
We've started it here, and we want to take it to where you are. And everybody that I have talked to that I know just delighted to do that. And I think once a month from now on, while you're in your campaign, we will have a meeting here in Dallas and in Fort Worth, and get some of our people, including myself, to go and work in some of those counties that you need.
Right.
And what we will do is not to go in talking about you, but go in talking about being able to buy a house, being able to get the veterans to work. And incidentally, there's a lady that's working to go to Washington to help us do that. That's what we have to do. Yes.
Yeah.
Focus.
And the reason for that, a lot of our people have been trained to not to think about politics,
Yes.
but do what you are told to do about politics, and don't worry about changing it. But when you realize that the only way that you can advance is to know what politics is telling you is not beneficial to you, it's beneficial to somebody else. And if you finally get somebody that's going to help you in politics, it's certainly going to make a difference economically. Am I right?
Yes.
Absolutely correct.
That's right.
Yes.
Mr. Ashley,
Yes, sir.
what do you think?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what, are you looking at the development here, Lancaster, what specifically?
Well, no, actually, we have land in Tyler.
Mhm.
We own land in Tyler, so I would like to duplicate what is gonna happen right here in this facility and maybe donate a couple of acres or so to do the same thing for veterans and people, because it's not just veterans that are homeless. Obviously, you know, I'm very interested in the veterans, but there's just regular citizens that look like me and you that are homeless down there in East Texas as well.
What seems to be the word on affordable housing? What is affordable housing in this day and time?
Well, that's a good question. We have the veterans have a program called HUD-VAST program, and sometimes it's hard to get the veterans out off the streets because they've been out there for so long,
Right.
and a lot of them because of mental illness, and so that's another big issue that we really have to focus on and work with. But many of them think that they're still out in the bush, out in the field, you know, and so they're out there protecting the people, right? And so we have to make sure that they get into the hospital settings for mental illness. I know that we're never going to get all of them, and I recognize that, because there's been some that said to me, "Ma'am, no, go away. I don't want to hear about your VA hospital," you know. So we can't reach all of them, but we can reach so many more.
What about the group home approach? Do you find that may be appealing to any of them? Because doesn't the federal government fund?
That's part of the HUD-VAST program. They will. They'll help to get them on Section 8. They have their special a number of housing for veterans. They're strictly for veterans. And actually they focus on the veterans first.
Do you think the veterans would be, what are they amenable to? Are they just want to be left alone to
A lot of them.
wallow?
A lot of
Got
them.
complacent.
That's why I say we have to really focus on helping them mentally to get into the doctors and get on medication and work with them at that level.
Because Dave, what you're planning here is luxury townhouses, right? Compared to what
Yes.
you're planning for Lancaster.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you know, the facility that we're talking about building here can change and use that same structure in another area because the cost of the land.
Mm.
And that's where the problem is. And if we do this very same project in some of the rural areas,
Right.
I think we will have an opportunity to get people to do it simply because it doesn't cost that much. It costs what that area can afford.
And we own the land already.
Yeah.
We just donate a couple of some acres
Yes.
to build on.
Is it just, do you have anything on it? Any?
Nothing.
Nothing, no.
An acre wide
Government.
lake on this particular land that we're thinking about.
So it would need everything then, the infrastructure and all.
Exactly, total infrastructure.
There are other types of building like this type. We had for about 6 years we were trying to find a building way of building in a area where wealth was not very is not very committed to doing things for people that don't have money. And that's what we have to realize. And when we're in a rural area like you have, and I think here in Dallas, some of the out areas that we still have rural areas like out in Lancaster.
Right.
And if you got a piece of land out there, I know one lady that's got 100 and some acres out there, and her children say they're gonna build on it. And that means that they can build certain houses. Now there are 2 or 3 different types of houses. These houses are very expensive to build, but they pay for themselves because the utilities and maintenance is different.
Less.
And but a lot of people don't have the money to build them, so consequently we had to find some other ways of building, and we found some. There was a type of building that they build with organizations that were bringing merchandise from the Middle East and other parts of the world into Dallas and into the United States. And these were containers
Right.
made out of steel.
Right.
And they didn't have anything to do with them for a long, long time. And it would cost them too much to build them and send it over here and then send a vacant facility back over there. So consequently, they didn't have anything to do with them, and somebody decided, said, why don't we make buildings out of them? Why don't we make housing out of it? And now those containers, you can build a house for almost half of what you can do it here. And we have a group that I work with over at Fort Worth, and we started about 5 years ago, and the guy who was working with us that knew about it, he had an illness, and it took him a little bit while to get over it. But we are back now, and we're going to build some factories. And it's very, very simple to build these buildings, simply because it's like taking a box and putting them together and cutting the doors and windows out.
Right.
But you have something there, it's steel and concrete. And it'll be there 50 years, and if it costs you $100,000 to build a house, you can build one of these for $35,000 or $40,000 or less than 50, and that's what we're in the process of doing now, and that's what I was telling you about in your area.
Correct.
Because a lot of building housing is a fact of where the land is.
Right.
What part of the community is it? Is it close to downtown? Is it far away?
That's right.
Is it in an area where the people can get to and build without having to pay taxes on a piece of property?
Right.
And that's going to be the difference.
Yeah,
And that's
excuse me,
different,
you
yeah.
made a statement saying if you don't have money, they don't want to spend money.
Yeah.
See, and that's the mindset they have to get out of.
Right.
You know, otherwise you just want to help the wealthy of the rich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you turn around and people start contributing to the ones that have less funds, and see that once that get developed, you can get more funds like I say, because the housing can pay for itself if we build right housing. Instead of 135,000 or 35,000, 60,000, you know. So that's the mindset that have to be changed on that affordability.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if I may say, while we have the conversation steered in the direction of money and finances, that we have to teach the proper attitude to have towards money.
Yeah.
Many other races teach their children at the ages of 2 and 3 how to invest money, how to save money, that money should be used as a tool to accomplish the things that we need. And that having been said, when, as a business person, when I talk to people about developing credit lines, they look at me as if to say, well, I don't want any credit. But that's not exactly the truth, because they have Macy's charge cards that are run all the way up to the top, and everybody likes fashion and clothes, but we spend a lot of money, $500, $600, and $700 on pairs of shoes, and it's difficult to get people to understand that for $2,000 to $3,000 you can pay a consultant to help develop a credit line for your business. And every business, Donald Trump's business, Warren Buffett's business, everyone has lines of credit. And that's something that my company and I are in the midst of building right now. There's a $3 million credit line for our campus of care. And our model came into being after Hurricane Katrina, when we saw that the government did not save us. So our team is disaster medicine trained. We are high-level scientists who go into the laboratory. We manipulate sperm and eggs. White people are paying anywhere from $200 to $300 a month to store their sperm in egg and sperm banks. This is an area that we as black people ought to be getting into. We can really do anything that we want to do. So when we talk in groups like this about collaborating, we need to speak on how we can get together and build credit lines. That's of utmost importance, whether it's beginning level financing or mezzanine level financing, which is after you've been in business for a few years or a couple of years, and then high-level financing. Money is always an issue, and I don't care if you're a billion-dollar functioning company or if you're making $50,000 in profit. Every company needs a credit line.
That's right.
Excellent.
In regard to whom?
There was a meeting held just last week in Dallas at Paul Quinn College where they had, it was a state senator.
Yeah.
It was called the Black Church and Economic Development.
That's right.
And there were all these black churches there, the big mega churches there. And they were talking about the possibility of trying to start a black bank,
Okay.
which Dallas had years ago.
Yeah. And Tyler.
Okay.
And you did have it at the time?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
How do we get to the point where we can collectively trust one another with our funds?
Oh, that's a great question.
Isn't
And we
it?
do have 21 black banks right now
Yes.
nationally, and everything is being done globally. All business is e-commerce, so we are suggesting that everybody get an account. I think the closest to you guys now is Houston. In my area, we had 2 black banks in Philadelphia. They've now been bought out, and we have to either go to Newark, New Jersey, or to Baltimore, Maryland. But with the issue of trust, I like to focus on who will, and not spend a lot of time, or any time, zero on who won't. So we find the 15 or 20 people who will work with us, and we just don't worry about who doesn't trust us, because what I've learned is that when you really are a visionary, and you're doing something that's on the cutting edge, people don't have any faith in it until you've been in it 10 or 15 years and you flourish. They don't have that vision to see that seed, so we can't afford to spend the time there.
So
We sprinkle the seeds, and we find 10 or 15 people who believe in us, and those are the ones you work with.
what's the litmus test to know who they are?
Sometimes it's trial and error, but for me, I ask the Lord, I don't have 6 months to get to know people anymore. I don't have 10 or 15 years to get to know someone and then find out that they're not who they say that they are. A lot of it's trial and error. I can walk into a room now and I can figure out who it is that I should be doing business with. But you have to have some faith. We talk about faith, but faith really is, you know what? I've lost $1,000 at the mall before. I'll take a chance and I'll do business with this person. And if I lose $1,000, it's just $1,000. I can get it back.
Because that's where I see Dallas is right now. Dallas has money,
Yeah.
Yes.
but Dallas does not have that level of trust.
Right.
Well, they would collectively come together and pool that money and to see it come to fruition.
Well, we have trust for who we want to have trust for. All of the mega churches, they didn't start out that way. In my area, they sold plate lunches. I can remember some of the little small storefront churches that now have 5,000 members. And when I went to college 32 years ago, they just had a few members there. But we have trust. We put money in the collection plate every Sunday, and we trust that. We trust that process.
Well, I'm saying if you got 10 pastors sitting around a table and you say, okay, we need each and every one of you to put in at least $2,000, earnest money to show me that you will pass this litmus test of being for real about going on down the road to cooperative economics. I mean, do you do stuff like that to see who's who, or do you just?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
can I address that a little bit also? When I'm campaigning, I tell some of the citizens, I said, every single one of you have at least 5 people that you have influence over. I mean, just we could start right here in this room and say that, look at, we're friends here. So I would start with that. My daughter can tell you that back in the 1980, was it, when I was pushing the black dollar to the people in East Texas, and I was trying to get the churches to start their own credit union. Because I'm gonna tell you why I was doing that, because I worked in bank management for about 7 years, right, in Tyler, and I would see the black churches come in and bringing $10,000 and $15,000 every Monday morning, and on Tuesday morning when they come to get a loan, they had to pay this high interest rate. But I saw the Caucasian people coming in with poor to no credit, getting 2 and 3 and 4%, and we were paying 10 and 12% interest rate on our loans. And one of the black banks in her city, what was her name, Chappelle?
Dr. Emma Chappelle.
Dr. Emma Chappelle, who was the
United.
president of one of the banks of United at that time, invited her to come down to Tyler, Texas, so that we could talk about, because she was into the black bank. And then we had a black bank in Tyler, Texas. It ended up folding. And then my family members had the first black-owned bank in Los Angeles. And they went to family members, so we start with our family members. And get them to invest into the banks. But we should have our own banks, because we put too much money into the other banks on Monday morning from the churches. And if we could get the pastors involved, like when our ancestors, my grandfather, yours, and our father and mother, when they were working in the community, the churches were more involved. But you can't get them involved anymore. I don't understand. You know, maybe it's their 501c3, and I told them all the time, well, you didn't even have to apply for a 501c3. You were nonprofit anyways. All churches are automatically a nonprofit. But you can't get them involved anymore, and I don't understand why.
Well, and to piggyback onto what my mother is saying, a lot of this damage happened after integration, the so-called integration. We were tricked with a lot of this. When we were forced to work together, we worked together. We had the black banks. So what we have to do is recreate those days from when I was a child, when you guys were in your younger years. We can get that back. It takes the think tank meetings like what we're having today, and it takes teaching just one at a time. We have more media, we have more money and credit lines than our grandparents did. They did more than what we're doing today, unfortunately. But we can change that.
Yes, we've been trying to revive the whole Black Wall Street movement, because we've been in contact with some of the descendants of the people that still live in Oklahoma that were part of the 1921 situation. And then, you know, this book, there's an e-book by Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery. Now, that's one that I just got through rereading that book. And it seemed like we are almost, even though we got all these assets, but we don't have that up from slavery mentality with all the resources that we had. They didn't have resources, but they had a certain mentality that Booker T. Washington allowed them to collectively utilize. But it seemed like through desegregation, we desegregated ourselves out of our own economic independence.
That's right.
And we went downtown, we closed up Big Mama's shop, the shop over here at Macy's.
It's never been the same.
But Chinatown didn't close down, Little Mexico didn't close down,
did.
and
There
the
you
Laser
go.
didn't
There
close
you
down.
go.
Separated from each other and also separated from business.
Exactly.
They,
We have to learn better how to take care of one another.
and that's why
Because they're going to take care of their people.
Yeah. And so that's where we are in terms of trust, because we've got, like I said, the bank here in Dallas, Sunbelt Bank, it didn't close because of a lack of people putting money in it. You had unscrupulous business people taking loans and didn't pay it back.
Yes.
And the FDIC
That's why
said
they closed.
and the FDIC investigators came down and closed it down.
Right.
This is an example of the houses that we will be building.
Okay.
And you can see these containers, we would normally call them boxcars, but these are on the ships that come over. And you can build a house for $35,000 putting these together. And that's concrete and steel. And it's going to be there for 30 or 40 years. They don't burn. The utilities are a lot cheaper. And this is a project that we're working, and I got a gentleman now that we will be building these type of houses down in your area
Right.
and here in Fort Worth. And I have some property in Lancaster. We probably do a few of them down there, and we've been working on this one. And it's really unbelievable once you put them together. And we're gonna start training high school kids how to build these houses, and that's gonna make them a lot cheaper.
Sure.
One of the things about what we've been talking about is financing housing and financing cars or anything else. There's a difference in the amount of money that we pay than white people pay.
Oh, sure.
I mean, and it's very difficult for us to let our ministers know how much money every Monday morning we put in the bank, and say like in the city of Dallas, it might be 25 or 30 or 40 million dollars
Yes.
out of 8 or 10 of our churches. And this is something that they don't give us any credit for.
No.
They don't give us credit to build a house and all that. And that's the one thing that we have got to change. That, Mr. Ashley and I have been talking about that for a long time. And he's got some ministers that really believe in him, and we got a little program going that I think is really going to work. And when we show our people what we can do, that's where they make a change. Because they're not used to having an opportunity because of the money that they put in the bank or the money that they go and buy a car with. And this is something that's going to be left up for us to do. And I've got another house here. I've got a friend that I've known for quite a year. And he lives in Washington, D.C. He was my business partner when I had a business in Washington. And these are houses that they are building in Africa. These houses would cost $150,000 to $200,000 in America. Over there, they cost $50,000, $60,000 at the very most. And these are the same type of houses. And now, he has been working with me. Incidentally, you'll get a chance to meet him because he's going to come back in about 2 weeks. And he's working with me to get this done. And he said, it's not as hard as you think it is if you get the people to support it. And one of the things that's going to make a difference is the government now, they have so many poor people and that don't have a home, they're going to have to pay for some of these houses. So consequently, they won't mind us building a house for $50,000 because the wealthy people and the big contractors don't want to build houses for poor people.
Yes.
They can build, and that's the one thing that we got to teach our people. And the only way you can do it is actually show them what we're doing. If they look at this house and say, "Look, we can buy this house, we can build this house for $50,000." It's built out of concrete and steel. It will not catch a fire, and they just wouldn't believe it. And that's what we're doing. And that's why I say there are a lot of things going on here in Dallas, and people like Robert Ashley and myself and you all, we are going to make a change and let our people know that you don't have to put up with being poor.
That's right.
Being poor is up here, and that's one of the
that's
things.
the truth.
You know what? That's
Not
one
my
of the
mindset.
things. That's one of the things that I am very, very proud of with Ben Carson. You just don't know when he tells young people that I was a thug and I left being a thug to be one of the greatest doctors in the world. Do you know what that's going to do to that kid? 'Cause we've seen it.
There's
Right.
motivation there.
That's
it
right.
is. Yes,
Because
it
you know what? They said, you really mean? And then he'll take something out and show him, say, did you see this in the paper? Did you see this on TV? Did you see me on 60 Minutes?
That's it.
And that makes a difference.
Yes.
But this opportunity that we have today, and I really appreciate all of us meeting here because this is just the beginning of some things that we're going to do.
That's right.
And we have some very brilliant people in Texas. In this part of Texas, we have some very brilliant people, and they are really ready to do some things now.
In this room, even.
And I tell you, it's a thrill to me to work with Mr. Robert Ashley.
Yes.
And he's been working for 30 years at that radio station. And you know, I told him how many people that admired him because he had been working, and he just didn't believe me when I started telling. And we started doing some things in the community. And he said, Dave, you know, I just didn't have. I said, that's what we have to do with our ministers, with our children.
That's right.
And we have to participate and let them know you're not done because you're poor.
That's right.
You know, rich people don't make human beings. They come from upstairs. And all we have to do is make a change and we'll see a difference.
That's right.
And this meeting this evening is just a thrill to me because I see some progress.
Me too.
I really see some progress. And Robert Ashley is somebody that I am really, really proud of because I've been working with him now about 6 months. And I have just showed him some things and some of the power that he's got with certain people. He said, Dave, I just didn't believe it. I said, well, the thing is that you have done it and you didn't have that in mind what you could do when you tell people. And that the organization that he's working for, that radio station, it's an AM station,
Right.
not an FM station. And they have more listeners
Yes.
and more Christians listen to them than the TV and the other stations. And we're working on that.
Great. And let me just share with you that I've had the privilege of being on Mr. Ashley's show at least 4 or 5 times. And every single time I'm on his show, someone from East Texas that lives in Dallas, Texas calls and say, I heard you on Robert Ashley's show. And I was very proud. So I appreciate all of the contacts that he's made possible for me during my campaign.
Well, I think that's going to happen, and it's going to happen not only in your area, but some other rural areas. And because once they see the progress that's being made in the Tyler area, they're going to say, wonder why we can't do that, and then we get the word out to them.
That's right.
And we definitely going to do everything we can to get you elected.
Thank you. So what's our next step then? And
Well, our next step is we're going to have a luncheon, and it'll probably be sometime in December, and let you know at least once a month or every other month we want to have you to meet some of our people in this general area, because we have an awful lot of people that would want to do some things, but they just don't know how. And that's one of the reasons why Mr. Ashley has been very, very helpful in what we're doing now, because I've met a lot of people that I would not have known if it had not been for working with him on the radio station and all that. And people say, I didn't know we could do that. And so that's the difference that is happening now in America. And it's going to change.
Yes.
It's going, and Tyler is going to change.
Yes, it is.
Because we got enough power up here in Texas to bring it out. And some of the people that's going to come down there with you, it's going to shock you.
Looking forward to that. There's a lot of people in Dallas, Texas that come from Tyler, Texas, and East Texas.
Well, you know, I told you my mother in 1912 was born in town.
His mother was born in Tyler.
Wow. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great.
We
Sam, do you have any
certainly-
questions? Is he still there?
Yes, sir.
Oops. Are you there?
Yeah, I had you on.
I figured you had us on mute. Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Any comments, Stephen?
Any comments?
Taking notes. Everything's going fine.
Okay.
Would you like to make some comments, brother?
Y'all go ahead and knock it out. Like I said, I'm just walking around listening.
Okay.
Taking me a little notes while I'm doing a couple of chores.
And we have
He's
a
well
wonderful
trained, isn't
friend.
he?
We have a wonderful friend that's putting it on tape too. You a part of those people.
That's right.
And you know what? That doesn't change.
No.
It was just normal for you to do the things some of your mother taught you because you saw it. And that's what happened to me. And you know what really surprised me about her? She was saying something that very seldom do I hear. She said, I was taught not to work for white people.
Yes, we were.
And you know what? I told her that she was one of the first people that I have heard say that in a long time, because that's what my parents told me. I've been in business 67 years, and I worked for the government for 2 years. But the rest of the time, I've been in business. I had business in Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles, and here in Dallas. And it all came from, a lot of it came from slavery.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's just there, and this is what we got to do. And that's why I don't think it's a person in America right now that means as much to us as Ben Carson. We just got to get the message out.
That's right.
When we get the message out, it's going to be amazing, the problem that he's going to be able to solve for us. And when he comes, we're going to have him back to town.
Yes.
And we're going to have him to come here every quarter and talk to some of the people
I'll
here.
come as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And once we do that, we'll tell all of his bosses, this guy knows what he's doing. So he knows as much about it. Because, you know, the people that wanted him to work in the medical part of the government,
That's right.
after he didn't get to be president, was
Right.
going to be in the cabinet.
Right.
He said, look, I know 100 times more about poor people than I know about medicine.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you.